Well, hello everyone. I thought that since our reflections this week are based in gardens, I'd attempt to record this outside. Probably something I'm going to regret, but I thought I'd give it a go. It also gives me a chance for you to give you a look at where I'm actually based at the moment, at Southwark Park, just outside Portsmouth. The kiss of the sun for pardon, the song of the birds for mirth. One is nearer God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth. If I'm honest, no matter how well-intentioned the sentiment of this verse, over the years I've come to find it rather irritating. But perhaps that's because I've only ever encountered it out of context. I'm not sure how many of you realise that I began my career as a gardener working for the National Trust. When the vocational advisor at Southwark Diocese suggested I should see something of the world before pursuing a vocation, I spent a year after leaving school as assistant gardener at Clumber Park in Nottinghamshire. Even now, almost 40 years later, that place has a call on my soul. It will forever be my Eden. It was the first time I experienced what it was to be free, and amongst its specimen trees and shrubs from around the world, I found forbidden fruit. And of course I tried them, with inevitable consequences. I make no bones about it, I will spend the rest of my life trying to get back there. I came close once, and it broke my heart when I was rejected. But then that rejection led me to Somerset and my time with you, so it was obviously not then my time to return. At the heart of the garden is a chapel, or it's so called because it's almost as substantial in size as St Mary's, and has been described as a cathedral in miniature. While I was there was a retired canon who was the resident incumbent, and perhaps I will end my days in that role myself. The kiss of the sun for pardon, the song of the birds for mirth. One is nearer God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth. It was in my second garden that I first encountered this verse. For nearly 12 years I was the warden of Upton Country Park on the edge of Poole Harbour. Surrounding a house, very similar to this one, was a formal garden with a walled garden and rose and herbaceous borders and many rhododendrons and azaleas. We introduced a scheme of memorial trees, new specimens or replacements for the originals that had died or had been windblown in the storms. People were given the option of an engraved stake to accompany the tree, and I can only remember one occasion when that offer wasn't taken up. And it seemed that more often than not, that verse was the one that was included as part of the inscription. I always felt that Upton was an unhappy and troubled place throughout its history. The man who built it went bankrupt within 10 years and had to sell up. The estate then became embroiled in the Tichborne trial, still one of the longest court cases in British history. The final family to own it lost their mother in the first car accident in Dorset, and as none of them ever married, they tried to leave the estate to the National Trust, who turned them down, so it was eventually passed to the council. Its catalogue of woes didn't end there. It was linked to the great train robbery and fell into such a state of disrepair that some council members rather uncharitably referred to it as vertical hardcore. It was a troubled place for those of us who worked there too. It was never a happy place to work, but it was a place of reflection, our own Gethsemane. I spent many hours wrestling in that garden with my doubts and fears, crying to God in the night to show me the way I should walk in. It was in that garden that my first marriage ended. Many tears were shed, but a new course and a new purpose also became clearer. The kiss of the sun for pardon, the song of the birds for mirth. One is nearer God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth. Those of you who have seen our house in Mere will know that while it might not have a conventional garden at its rear, it does have over 1,000 trees, every one of which I've planted myself. We inherited the money to buy the property when my mother died. My mother was a great lover of plants and gardening, and it's fair to say she would not have stuffed another single blade of grass into her own garden. I'm sure she would approve of what I've tried to do as a continuance of her legacy. While I was in the process of planting those trees, both my stepmother Joss and my close friend Ed both fell ill with cancer. As I planted each tree, they were in my mind, and I prayed hard for their recovery. Sadly, that never came for either of them. But that constant prayer reignited my vocation, calling me to the priesthood, a rebirth that I never expected. Those trees led me to be where I am today. At the start I said that verse was taken out of context. It comes from a poem by Dorothy Frances Gurney. Restored to its proper place, its significance to this season becomes clear and a fitting point to end. The Lord God planted a garden in the first white days of the world, and he set there an angel warden in a garment of light enfurled. So near to the peace of heaven that the hawk might nest with the wren, and there in the cool of the even God walked with the first of men. And I dream that these garden closes, with their shade and their sun-flecked sod, and their lilies and bowers of roses, were laid by the hands of God. The kiss of the sun for pardon, the song of the birds for mirth, one is nearer God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth. For he broke it for us in a garden, under the olive trees, where the angel of strength was the warden, and the soul of the world found ease. Well, God bless you all. Take care of yourselves, and I hope that I'll be able to be with you in person again very soon. God bless.